Okay, we're now live.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Michi-Saugeag territory and in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saugeag and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge the shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Good evening and welcome to the County of Haliburton's Land Division Committee. My name is Liz Danielson and I'll be your chairperson for tonight's hearing. I'd like to introduce anyone who's in attendance to the members of the committee. Tammy McKelvey, Councillor at Large for Minden Hills. Pat Kennedy, Public Member for Dysart et al. Bob Snyder, Public Member representing Highlands East. And Bill Donald, representing Algonquin Highlands. We're joined by our Director of Planning this evening, Steve Stone, and our planner, Adam Kozlowski, as well as our official Land Division Secretary, Alana Lacey. This meeting is held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. The purpose of the hearing is to give each applicant or their authorized agent the opportunity to discuss their application with the committee and to respond to written submissions which may have been received. It's also an opportunity for committee members to broaden their understanding of each application by asking questions. Members of the public who are participating virtually may also make oral submissions to the committee, whether in support or opposition of an application. We do hear the applications in the same order as they were received in our office. Our Secretary Treasurer will introduce each application and our planners will provide planning briefs. Then participants who have registered to address the committee will be admitted virtually to speak with the committee. Each participant will be provided 5 minutes to speak to the committee. With that, we'll now proceed with the agenda for this evening. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Members Snyder and Donald.
Be it resolved that the October 23rd, 2023 Land Division Committee agenda be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of September the 11th? Member Kennedy and Donald, thank you.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the Land Division Committee meeting held September 11, 2023 be hereby approved as printed and circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. So we will now move into our applications. And the first one being Fokker and Stevenson for new right-of-ways.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll share screen and walk committee through the applications. And I trust everyone can see the screen. Okay, so this application involves three properties. It's two applications for what we'll call a right-of-way transplantation. I'll show some sketches here. But just for committee's benefit, these are shoreline lots on Kawagama Lake. And the first property is for 1059 Ladybug Trail, and 1059 Ladybug, which is H1823, is going to grant right of way for 1071 and 1073 Ladybug Trail. And then moving east, H2923, which is Stevenson, will grant right of way for 1073 Ladybug Trail to cross over. And the purpose of this right-of-way transplantation, we'll call it, is that when these lots were originally created, the right-of-way for the road was actually up here in red. And then the road was actually built down here, which is in that black kind of hatched pattern. So what these two applications will do is establish the right-of-way where the road is actually located so that the properties downstream have proper legal crossing over their neighbors to get out to Kawagama Lake Road at the other end. Just one thing I wanted to note for committee part 2, which is this piece here. This is not part of the application. Part 2 is actually on a neighboring property to the west. This is the parking area for one of these properties. So when the lawyers remove these 2 rights of way here and here, this one will remain. It's for a parking area and it should not have been highlighted. So staff have been aware of that. The other thing I just wanted to bring to committee's attention is one of the conditions that Dysart had imposed was condition number 4. And that was that Dysart was requesting that the owner of 1059 Ladybug reestablish natural shoreline vegetation. Staff recommend that condition be removed because it is not germane to this right-of-way transplantation. That's a matter that can be dealt with at the municipality and really doesn't have a place here as with the Land Division Committee for this application. So staff have reviewed the application. We have no objections. Dysart has endorsed the report and endorsed the applications. So staff recommend approval subject to removal of condition 4 from the Dysart conditions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Members of the committee have questions. Member Snyder.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I note that what was the right of way and what is the right of way now are different in size. I assume all applicants here have agreed to that. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that's correct. So this application was submitted by Marie Poirier and Associates. I believe Ernest Young is here to speak to it as well. But yeah, the location of the road itself, the owners of 1059 and 1071 are on board. They've made the application to correct this right-of-way issue.
Okay.
Do members of the committee have any other questions? Is Mr. Young online and wish to speak?
Mr. Young is available to be brought forward to speak to this application. He's joining now.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. Good evening. So, hi, Chair and committee member. I'm Ernest Young with Marie Poirier Planning and Associate at 44 King William Street, Unit A, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H1G3. We are the agent representing Barker and Stevenson, the property owner of 1059 and 1071 Ladybug Trail. Thank you, staff and committee member, for reviewing the application. We concur with the staff's explanation and recommendation. So to ensure access to other property that utilize the existing right-of-way, Stevenson's application and additional land registry document were submitted under the staff's direction to ensure the adjacent portion of the right-of-way will align with the unadjusted portion and will be addressed accordingly. No new lots or development or change in land use have been proposed in these application, whereas the potential impact on the surrounding properties and natural heritage feature is expected to be minimal. So it's our opinion that the application is consistent with the related policy and reflect good planning practices. So we kindly request that the committee recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Do members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Young? No. Hearing no questions, could I then have a mover and a seconder to grant provisional approval for both of these applications? Moved by Member Kennedy, seconded by Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to applications for consent H-01823 Bacher and H-02923 Stevenson, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-01823 Bacher, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-02923 Stevenson, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Member McKelvey.
I think
Oh.
Mr. Kozlowski has a comment. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yep.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, I think the resolution read, there was a resolution that reflected removal of DICAR condition 4. I think that was the resolution.
Adam, do you have that one printed?
Yes, I do. I can read that if committee wishes. I have it up on screen.
If you would, please.
So, okay, so the first part of the resolution is as is. So the second part is that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-018-23 Bacher, subject to the amended conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, consisting of deletion of DICAR condition 4, where all other conditions would apply. And the last part of the resolution is for Stevenson. No change to the wording. Alana, go ahead.
Thank you. Member McKelvey?
So just before we go to the vote, would the resolution have to say, because it's not in our report, would it have to be resolution as amended, or can we leave it as is?
We can, the original resolution was the one I just read. I think it was just a matter of an alternative resolution being read.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Member McKelvey?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes. Yes.
And Chair Danielson?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
The next application is by Smith for a new right-of-way on Howland Junction Road in Minden Hills.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll share screen for committee. Okay, can everybody see the survey sketch?
Yep.
Okay. The application at hand today is to basically encompass an existing long-used driveway over the granting lands to the benefiting lands. If committee remembers, last year around this time, we did a lot addition, which was to add this piece here to this piece here, which is 1272 Howland Junction, which is the benefiting lands. There is a long-standing driveway that comes in here, and it goes out to Howland Junction, and then it goes off across the trail and out to the municipal road. So what the applicants are proposing today, the granting land at 1250 Howland Junction is granting a right-of-way right here over the existing driveway to the benefit of 1272 Howland Junction. So this, there are some site photos in the report. The driveway has been there for years. So they're really just, it's a technicality. We're just going to grant a right-of-way to recognize an existing driveway access. And that will basically complete the chain of access out to the municipal road. So staff have reviewed the application, no objection, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Thank you.
Questions from the committee on the application. First, member Snyder, then member Donald.
Thank you. Why does the right of way not meet with the benefiting land?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So I'll share screen again. And Member Snyder, this was the exact question that I had for the applicants about that, because I thought that there was a break in the chain here. The lawyer, Mr. Shapiro, for the landowner provided an opinion. The property at 1272 actually does have a blanket right of way over this kind of 7 shape here, or L shape. So you'll see here that there's a note right of way as in H, et cetera, et cetera. So part 5, plan 5380. So the surveyor has marked the center line of the driveway where it goes in. So long story short, 1272 has right of way over this already. And we're just basically completing the chain out to Howland Junction Road, if that answers the question.
Okay, thank you.
Member Donald.
That was my question. It's just strange they wouldn't just do it all at once and clean up the title. But I'm satisfied, thank you.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this application this evening?
There is no one in attendance to speak to this application.
Okay. Could I then have a mover and a seconder to grant provisional approval for the application? Member Snyder and member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-03423 Smith, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-03423 Smith, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Member McKelvey.
Yes.
Member Snyder.
Yes.
Member Kennedy.
We didn't hear you, Pat.
Member Kennedy.
Good.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes.
thank you. Member Donald.
Yes,
Thank you. And Chair Danielson.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
that's carried. Next is the application by Building Arts Development, Inc. For a right-of-way in Algonquin Highlands.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll share screen. So the subject property for these right-of-way applications, this actually consisted of a plan of subdivision that was recently registered this year, and it was to create 4 lots on Kawagama Lake. And the name of the bay escapes me, but it's right at the end of, I think it's Pine Ridge Trail, I think the name of it. But anyway, it's a long private road. It goes through Crown Land. And these 4 lots were originally created as a plan of subdivision for water access. However, the owners have received a work permit from the ministry to construct a laneway out to the Crown Road, which follows a hydro cut. So that road was constructed a number of years ago with an M&R permit, and they now enjoy road access to these waterfront properties. So the last step in the application process here is to grant what we'll call a cascading right-of-way, so to speak. So the way that this series of applications works is lot 1 will grant a right-of-way to lots 2, 3, and 4. And then moving down the chain here, lot 2 will grant a right-of-way for lot 1 to cross, kind of do a switchback here and then come across. Lots 3 and 4 will get right-of-way over 2. And then lot 3 will grant right-of-way for lot 4 to cross over to cross over lot 3. And then lot 4 itself will benefit from all of these applications. So fairly straightforward. Algonquin Highlands has endorsed the application. Staff have no objection. subject to the conditions listed in the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I believe the agent for the application is also online if there's any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee members? If the agent is in fact here, I guess we could bring them in. I didn't have a listing for anyone to speak to that application.
I believe they were here to observe, but they're being brought forward in case you have any questions for them.
Good evening.
Good evening. You're a
Sorry,
little bit
when I-
difficult to hear. Could you identify yourself?
My name is Jason Smyrnus. I'm the owner and also the agent for the application, and we just made ourselves available for any questions if they're required. We don't have anything further to add to Adam's synopsis of the application.
Do members of the committee have any questions they would like to ask the agent? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to grant a provisional approval for the 3 rights of way? Member Donald, Member Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to applications for consent H-03523, H-03623, H-03723, Building Arts Development, Inc., and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-03523, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-03623, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-03723, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
yes,
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's approved. Thank you, Mr. Smyrnus.
Thank you, everyone.
The next application is an application by Epic, which is a cancellation of consent on Snookums Lane in Highlands East.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll share screen and briefly walk through this application. So just as way of background, 1802 and the vacant part 4 over here next door, both owned by the owner, Al Epic, were created in 1979 through consents. And as committee knows, we now have the authority to cancel consents, which will allow lands to merge. And in this case, Mr. Epic approached us back in the summer to talk about merging the 2 properties. He had no intention of building on part 4 and he wanted to merge them. So we walked him through the process of doing a consent cancellation. So what the application tonight will do is basically cancel 57 and 58 of 1979, which will allow these 2 lands to merge. So that lot line right down the middle will effectively disappear and it'll be 1 lot for development purposes. Consent cancellations don't require any type of circulation or notice to the public. So we've recommended approval with the condition that the cancellation certificate be submitted. And I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Member Snyder.
Adam, why do this if the properties are in the same name? They would have merged on title.
Through you, Madam Chair, that is typically the case if the lands were not created by consent or if they were created, 80 years ago or it was a plan of subdivision. But these two were created by consent, so that's why they didn't merge it.
They didn't merge. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Adam? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to grant provisional approval for the application? Members Kennedy and McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent, for application for consent cancellation H-03823 EPIC, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of the application for consent cancellation H-03823, subject to the conditions of approval. Member McKelvey,
Yes.
Member Snyder,
Yes.
Member Kennedy,
Yes.
Member Donald,
Yes.
and Chair Danielson.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. And finally, we have an application for a new bell easement by 2168036 Ontario Limited.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll share screen. So the subject property is at 2159 Fred Jones Road on Drag Lake in Dysart. And the application today proposes to create an easement for Bell communication lines. And when I was speaking to the applicant, they indicate that those lines will be buried. And the reason for the unusual shape here is that it's to basically circumvent the cottage that's under construction. There was some site photos there in the package. Similar to the application we heard earlier, this one as well had some conditions from Dysart that county staff have recommended to be omitted. Now, I just wanted to draw committee to the one condition, number 2, which is where Dysart staff said that the registered owner to remove trailers and debris within the shoreline setback. I did talk to Chris Orsan at Dysart, and he actually indicated that bylaw did attend the site and the debris has been removed. So that condition really has been resolved. So we can delete that one if committee agrees. The second condition is number 3, and that is basically there's a dock there that has some zoning compliance issues. But again, the county land division staff believe that that's an enforcement issue for the municipality to deal with through zoning, and really isn't germane to the approval of a bell easement. So staff are recommending that conditions number 2 and 3 be deleted. And again, number 2 has been resolved. So it's really just deleting the wording from the condition and deleting number 3. So I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Staff have no objection, subject to the amended conditions, which are removing those 2 Dysart conditions. Thanks.
Councillor, Member McKelvey.
The question for Adam. I get your thoughts on removing those, but is that just because this is just a bell easement, or like if this was a severance that was before us where they were taking property and going to divide it in half, those conditions, what if you would leave them on? I'm just curious.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's again, they're very situational. If this was a lot addition to, give some land to the neighbor and the dock was, as a result of that, the dock was going to go over the lot line. That might be an appropriate time to put a condition like that. But, in this case, it's an underground bell line. Dysart bylaw, they have more than enough resources to deal with the dock. They might, go through a zoning or a minor variance. We just don't want to encumber this application with that process, which may take a while.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
Adam, does this facility service other properties? And that's the necessity of the easement, or is Bell simply creating an interest in the land? If the owner wanted to tear down the cottage and build a triplex 5 years from now and went over the Bell easement, would that create an interest that Bell could extract money from? Or I'm wondering why they need an easement across property if it's just serving a cottage.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So the Bell easement here, so this is the landowner granting an easement to Bell so that if Bell needs to do any maintenance, they have access to get to that Bell line. Generally, you cannot build on an easement, so that easement is basically set aside and it can't be built on. So if they wanted to do that in the future, they do have a reference plan here, so the building department should be able to catch that and make sure that nothing goes on that easement.
So Bell is just creating an interest in this person's property, basically.
Yes, more or less, yeah. And I think I don't know if we have, I believe
There
there
was to be an agent to speak to the application.
yes, and we actually do have that individual here. And perhaps this would be a good time for that person to maybe touch on that question for Mr. Donald.
They're being moved forward. Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening, Ms. Hizo. Would you like to add a little bit of comment to that?
So I'm acting as agent for Bell Canada. I'm an articling student working under Ron Nightingale. I don't know what the extent to the question is. I just have instructions that the proposed easement is for the protection and maintenance of the Bell utilities to be maintained and repaired as necessary. But I don't have any information as to the long-term plans for the easement.
Other questions, Member McKelvey?
So is this Bell line going to service other properties, or is it just solely for this property?
I believe it is just for this property, for the subject lands.
Like I don't recall ever seeing Bell get an easement on private property. You don't have one on my place, and the Bell line comes in 600 feet. So I'm a little confused.
Oh,
Particularly when it's only servicing one property. Mr. Kozlowski.
oh, through you, Madam Chair, just to that comment, in the last few months, the committee's actually, we've dealt with a number of these Bell easements. They seem to be more and more common as that infrastructure makes its way through cottage country into the more remote areas. The photos in the site package, when I was out on site, there are two poles on either side of on both sides of the property line. And those lines did continue to the east and west. So this tells me that there's Bell infrastructure in the area. It's just on this property, they're going to put it underground. And that's why they need the easement, just to maintain that they have access to it if they have to service it.
Okay. That answers it for me. Any other questions for either Adam or Ashley? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to grant provisional approval for the application? Members Snyder and Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-03923 2168036 Ontario Limited, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval for the application for consent H-03923 2168036 Ontario Limited, subject to the amended conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, consisting of deleting of Dysart condition 3, where all other conditions would apply. Member McKelvey.
I thought we were deleting 2 of Dysart's conditions.
I think Adam said that the one condition had already been taken care of, had already been managed.
But I think it should come out of the resolution because we don't want to start doing their property standards.
Well, through you, Madam
Right,
Chair, I think that Alana did say two. There was a hiccup in the sound.
I can reread that. For the
If you
record.
could, please.
Okay. For the second part, that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-03923-2168-036 Ontario Limited, subject to the amended conditions of approval as listed in the staff report, consisting of deletion of Dysart conditions 2 and 3, where all other conditions would apply. Member McKelvey?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes,
And Chair Danielson?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's approved. Thank you, Ashley. And thanks for bringing that up because I had not heard the two either. Okay, so on to other business. Next is the report on applications. Third quarter.
Thank you. I have provided a report for the updated application totals between August and October to add to the year-to-date totals, which we can see here in the 2003 column. It breaks it down by municipality and township and type as well. We can see that we have more consent cancellations this quarter, and we have a significant amount of applications in general. Has everyone had a chance to review this report?
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions?
Go ahead, Adam.
Just through you, Madam Chair, just one comment on the consent cancellations. So it is interesting, when I speak to my colleagues throughout Ontario, most of them have said, I've never done a consent cancellation. I said, yeah, we've done like 6 or 7 now. So it's interesting. We're trailblazers here.
Well, there you go, and an excellent report. I like the way you've done the charts attached to it. Any questions from the committee, Member Donald?
Adam, the first report we dealt with tonight seemed to me to be fairly straightforward, and yet it was 83 pages. Is there any way to cut that down? Make it a little bit more streamlined?
That actually was the short report. No, it's
I feel for you.
no, it's that's with the planning applications and the information that goes to committee. I try to keep my staff reports very short and to the point, but the appendices are just one of those things that we have to include just so that all the information's in front of committee. In the event of an appeal, the information that is in front of committee is divulged to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If anything's missing, that can come back and bite us.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, not too long before you joined, Bill, Adam and Steve have both done a certain amount of streamlining on the way the reports are presented. So,
Okay.
so it helps quite a bit. So, do we have a resolution to receive that report, or that's just for information?
That's just for your information. I have no resolutions here.
Okay, thank you for that. And the next is an interesting report to see about a proposal on the change of time. It's point well taken that there's quite a bit of overtime associated with these meetings in the evening. And I certainly understand why you brought it forward, because it would streamline things a little bit. I I have a little bit of concern. I don't know how great a concern it is, because we really don't get a lot of members of the public attending. I do believe that it's easier for members of the public to attend in the evening, and if someone wishes to speak to their application, it's if they're part of the working world, it's not easy for them to get away to a meeting or speak to a meeting. But I'd look to members of council. Maybe first I should look to Steve and Adam to speak to the report, and then to members of the committee to see what you think.
Well, if you, thank you, Madam Chair, to rest the committee. So to further the chair's comment with regards to making things more efficient for committee to consider applications, this is just another chapter, shall we say, in looking at building in some additional efficiencies for the Land Division Committee when they're dealing with their applications. And I've always had an eye for saving money as well as time. So in regards to, it's true that if we were to operate during the day as a committee, we could save some overtime costs, but also it also would allow us as a department to cancel some webinar software that we pay. It's quite a hefty price every year for the licenses. So there's the motivation behind the staff's discussion paper. Just in regards to that, what we did do is take a fulsome look at how other committees and councils are operating within the county, and the observation basically was that most, if not all, councils and committees are operating during the day, and there's sort of a mix between virtual and in person. And based on that, what we suggested as an option for the committee to consider is whether or not they want to just transition from a 7 o'clock meeting to something either in the morning or the afternoon. So that's the genesis of the report and basically the analysis for your benefit, and would be happy to answer any questions if committee does have any. So thank you.
So you're not proposing to go to meetings in person? We're still talking virtual meetings.
Yeah. Yes, that is correct. And we would simply we would cancel. The only thing that we would do here would be to cancel our web. We have 2 webinar licenses right now that are paying for committee. They're roughly $2,500 a piece per year. And by going this route, we can actually cancel those things.
I don't understand how that works. How you would need 2 webinar licenses.
Well, it's a transition from Zoom to Teams. So with us not hosting virtual meetings through Zoom, we can cancel those. So it not only it doesn't really affect this committee. It affects more the operation of our department, but that is a cost savings that
So we would be meeting via Teams.
No, we'll discuss this with IT. They have their own separate Zoom account, but I'm not sure if they're looking at transitioning to Teams in the new year. I know with us as a department holding meetings going forward, that it will be through the Teams realm. So
Be interesting to, I probably shouldn't say this, but it'll be interesting to transition on council. If you go from Zoom to Teams, you'll have some training to do.
Mm-hmm.
At least for a couple of members. So thoughts from the committee. Tammy, then Pat. I'm assuming there's no one else online now.
I am in favor of this wholeheartedly. you think it should be daytime meetings. The only thing I would ask and suggest both is consider a 1 o'clock meeting as opposed to 3. For 2 reasons. One is selfish. My grandchildren are taken off the bus at 3:30. But also just that your concern earlier, Chair Danielson, about people being at work, they could do this during their lunch hour then, if that was the case, if you had it at that time of day. The other thing is that sometimes these applicants are probably paying a premium for their agents to come to us in the evening, because I don't think they come back to work at 7 for the same price as they would as an afternoon. But the personal side of it, I will meet whenever you want, even aside from the bus. I have someone else that can be assigned that duty. So,
Pat,
Yeah, the 9 a.m. works for me on the every second Monday. That's monthly, right? Not every second Monday of the month. That's
That is correct. It's,
Yeah, okay.
we meet every second Monday, so
Yeah.
that's, sorry for the confusion there.
that's all right.
would,
And I wouldn't have any objection to the 1 p.m. either.
well, good, because 9 a.m. is on a Monday. I mean, that's my sort of my catch up with my week time, and
Yeah.
1 o'clock. I'm really glad that you brought up the 1 o'clock suggestion, because I'd much prefer 1 to 3 p.m. I mean, then you've got the rest of your afternoon. Thoughts from Bob and Bill. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm not certain I understand why you've said or suggested every second Monday. Is it necessary to have 2 meetings per month?
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the rest of the committee. That Member Kennedy already pointed my confusing way of stating that. I meant that we meet every second Monday of the month. I should have added the month. Sorry,
Okay.
Councillor Snyder.
Okay, thank you. And then my preference is 9. I can do 1. And then the other comment I have is my laptop hates Teams. So I might ask for some IT support.
Through you, Madam Chair, to
Go
through
ahead.
you,
I'm in preference for 1 o'clock again, but I'm sorry, Bill.
I'm available anytime during the day, but my comment comes from my wife, who's a professor at Ryerson and teaches at Athabasca, uses both Zoom and Team. And every time she comes out of her office after a team meeting, she's cursing. So I'm going to need some tech support too, I believe. But I'm available anytime during the day.
So do we know where we stand with the Zoom via Teams? Are you suggesting that all of county council meetings are going to go to Teams?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that we as a department, when we host our meetings with consultants and so on, we'll use Teams. IT still retains their own Zoom account for webinars. So I'm not intimating that they're going to change. It's just that we can save money by canceling our 2 webinar accounts, and we'll just piggyback on their account. So I apologize again for the confusion there.
Pat?
Yeah, Zoom recently put their prices way up.
Yeah.
Minden Hills is also going to be switching over to Teams for department meetings, that kind of thing. Councils will still go through Zoom because that's more of the public way of doing things, but a lot more things we can do with Teams. I don't know many of them, that I was told by IT it's a great tool, so I'll take them at face value right now to move towards Teams.
Adam?
Oh, I just wanted to just comment on switching times, and obviously we do things for the convenience of the applicants and the agents. I just wanted to comment to committee that
Committee members?
Oh, of course, that goes without saying. But over the last 3 to 4 years, going back to even the beginning of the COVID lockdowns, with Zoom and everybody having cell phones now, I could probably count on one hand how many times an applicant has said, I can't make the meeting because of the timing. But what I've found is that they've always been able to have somebody step in for them, either a lawyer or a planner. So it seems nowadays that the time of the meeting is less critical because everybody's accessible now. Just wanted to put that out there for committee. I haven't received in my time here. I don't think one person that said, I can't make the meeting because of the time.
I'm just wondering if for instance, we had an extremely contentious application where a number of people wish to present, would we still have the option of holding an evening meeting as opposed to a 1 o'clock meeting if that was the case? Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, as chair of the Land Division Committee, you can hold a meeting, a special meeting, if you want to call it that, at a time of the choosing of the committee. So if there, say for example, seems to be a preference for 1 o'clock. If a 1 o'clock application came in and it was controversial, this committee can certainly move to defer consideration at 1 o'clock and direct staff to host a special meeting just for that one application at a time of your choosing. So that can be done.
Okay, then, so I guess could I have a mover and a seconder then that we recommend to County Council that we hold our meetings on the second Monday of the month at 1 p.m. Member Donald? And seconded by Member Kennedy. All in favor? That's carried. Bill, did you have a question?
No, I believe our next meeting is going to be the 13th of November.
Right. And will that be a 1 o'clock? Well, will that be a 1 o'clock meeting or will we still be, I'm just wondering about the timing. By the time we get a report to County Council, we
Yeah,
might
no, I
say that it would
through,
start in January.
yeah, through you, Madam Chair, really if the committee was agreeable, it would be implemented for the new year, so 2024.
So maybe we should just add that to the resolution that it commencing 2024. If that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
Go ahead, Bob. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I know
thank you.
you said you liked 1 o'clock or 9 o'clock better.
No, it's not a problem. Thank you. I will be absent for the November meeting. Do you need any notice more than this?
No, through you, Madam Chair, this is fine. I as long as we have 3 people, we have quorum.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm traveling to Victoria on that date for my daughter's graduation, getting her PhD. The timing works if I can get to the hotel and we're still having the evening meeting. So I'll be available if that's available. If the flight's canceled or something, I'll make sure Atlanta knows that there's an issue. But I will be available if at all possible.
Are we anticipating a lot of applications in November? I've seen that, remember Adam saying something about we're facing quite a few applications. I expected there to be more this evening.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, the November meeting has 5 and the applications are, I'll say, more complex than we dealt with tonight.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed that Bill can join us. However, we would still have a quorum.
I'll be available as long as there's no flight delay or those kinds of things.
Yeah, and so through you, Madam Chair, if the worst does happen and Bill's not able to attend, as long as Tammy, Pat, and yourself are available, then we'll have quorum.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern about that, and I'll get to you in a second, Tammy, is that, if we really do have a contentious issue and say one of us disagrees, I really have trouble with only 2 people making a decision, out of a committee of 5. But we can always defer an application if we think that it might be contentious and bring it up at the next meeting. Go ahead, Tammy.
Just to let you know, once again, it's hunting season at that point, so don't know if that affects anybody. That it won't affect me. I'm not hunting this year.
Hunting
But I
season.
don't know, Pat, do you go away hunting?
It's going to be too cold for this old man to know. I've given it up. Deer hunting. I'd like moose hunting, but not deer.
Okay, so we're good on that item. I guess we have nothing left but to adjourn. And look, we were almost an hour, Tammy. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Members Donald and McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the October 23rd, 2023 Land Division Committee meeting be hereby adjourned at 7:55 PM.
All in favor? That's carried. Thanks very much, everyone. And I should say that when I spoke about overtime members, I said 3 staff, and it should have been 4, because sometimes there are actually 4 staff here. So my apologies, whoever's at the IT help desk, I left you out.
Enjoy the week, folks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Night,
Have a great night.
everybody.